welcome back to the Daily Poem here on the Close Reads Podcast Network. I'm David Kerr. Today's poem is by William Butler Yeats, a poet who you have heard from on this show previously. And this poem is called Sailing to Byzantium. This is one of those poems that is highly anthologized, like many of the poems I've read so far on this show. And it's one of the examples that made William Butler Yeats one of the most important literary figures of the 20th century. He was an Irish poet who lived from 1865 to 1939. I'm going to read the poem first, and then I'm going to offer some comments. I'm even going to include some comments that Yeats had about the poem himself. So first, here is Sailing to Byzantium by William Butler Yeats. That is no country for old men. The young in one another's arms, birds in the trees, those dying generations, at their song. The salmon falls, the mackerel-crowded seas, fish, flesh, or fowl, command all summer long whatever is begotten, born, and dies. Caught in that sensual music, all neglect monuments of unaging intellect. An aged man is but a paltry thing, a tattered coat upon a stick, unless soul clap its hands and sing, and louder sing for every tatter in its mortal dress. Nor is there singing school, but studying monuments of its own magnificence. And therefore I have sailed the seas and come to the holy city of Byzantium. O sages standing in God's holy fire, as in the gold mosaic of a wall, come from the holy fire, purn in a gyre, and be the singing masters of my soul. Consume my heart away, sick with desire, and fastened to a dying animal, it knows not what it is, and gather me into the artifice of eternity. Once out of nature, I shall never take my bodily form from any natural thing, but such a form as Grecian goldsmiths make of hammered gold and gold enameling to keep a drowsy emperor awake, or set upon a golden bough to sing to lords and ladies of Byzantium of what is past or passing or to come. In 1931, Yeats wrote the following words for a script that he wrote for a BBC radio broadcast. He wrote, "I'm trying to write about the state of my soul, for it is right for an old man to make his soul, and some of my thoughts about that subject I have put into a poem called Sailing to Byzantium. When Irishmen were illuminating the Book of Kells and making the jeweled croziers in the National Museum, Byzantium was the center of European civilization and the source of its spiritual philosophy. So I symbolize the search for the spiritual life by a journey to that city." End quote. This is a poem that I think, interestingly, is written in a scheme called ottava rima. It's an Italian scheme that was most commonly and originally used for long poems on heroic themes, for heroic verse. It eventually came to be known more for mock heroic verses, for mock heroic works. And you can Google ottava rima online. You can even find it on Wikipedia. It'll say many of the things that I just said there and give you some more examples. It was originally in the writings of Giovanni Boccaccio, says Wikipedia. So that's an interesting Wikipedia fact. But I'm so fascinated by the idea that he's reclaiming this ancient form, which was something that Yeats was known for. But he reclaims this ancient form that was used for heroic themes but had fallen into misuse, that had become known more for mock heroic verse. And he's taking that form and he's reflecting on old age. He's reflecting on life, and he's reflecting on death and what follows death. And he's reclaiming it in a way that even calls to mind Hephaestus making the shield of Achilles, the blacksmith, creating something of hammered gold and gold enamoring to keep a drowsy emperor awake. Now, I don't know if that's a direct reference to Achilles. I don't think it is, but it calls to mind that for me, at least. That's an echo that calls to mind for me. Achilles being a character who was desperate for honor, was desperate for respect. And this is a poem about it from the perspective of an old man who is looking at the world around him and seeing that it is a world for other people. It's a world for the young who are in one another's arms and for the birds in the trees at their song. And that everything else around him is looking at people like him as monuments of an unaging intellect that are being neglected. He's looking about and he's feeling a monument of unaging intellect who has been neglected. He's feeling like an aged man who is but a paltry thing. But in Byzantium, in a far-off world, in a world that he is symbolizing as the spiritual life, the spiritual journey, there is honor there. And then he takes this Ottava Rima rhyme scheme and he reclaims it and he offers it up as a form to honor those aged monuments. And I love that so much. And it's what makes this one of my favorite poems. It's a difficult poem in some ways to memorize, I think, unlike like yesterday's poem, for example, by Langston Hughes. But it's worth it because the verse here is really rich. The images are really rich. And it's one of the greatest examples of 20th century poetry. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and read it once more. This is William Butler Yeats, Sailing to Byzantium. That is no country for old men. The young in one another's arms, birds in the trees, those dying generations at their song. The salmon falls, the mackerel-crowded seas, fish, flesh, or fowl command all summer long whatever is begotten, born, and dies. Caught in that sensual music, all neglect monuments of unaging intellect. An aged man is but a paltry thing, a tattered coat upon a stick. Unless soul clap its hands and sing, and louder sing for every tatter in its mortal dress. Nor is there singing school, but studying monuments of its own magnificence. And therefore I have sailed the seas and come to the holy city of Byzantium. O sages standing in God's holy fire, as in the gold mosaic of a wall, come from the holy fire, burn in a gyre, and be the singing masters of my soul. Consume my heart away, sick with desire and fastened to a dying animal, it knows not what it is, and gather me into the artifice of eternity. Once out of nature, I shall never take my bodily form from any natural thing, but such a form as Grecian goldsmiths make, of hammered gold and gold enameling to keep a drowsy emperor awake. Or set upon a golden bough to sing to lords and ladies of Byzantium of what is past or passing or to come. This has been the Daily Poem. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll be back tomorrow with another poem for you.